It's Welcome to Mystara time, and this week you voted on knowing more about the Immortal Council of Intervention and its impact on the known world. Unlike Forgotten Realms or Greyhawk, extraplanar incursions into Mystara are quite rare. Demon invasions and Mind Flayer attacks are kept to a minimum because the very Immortals take it quite personally. The facts behind this extra-dimensional blockade are scattered across several books, and it was my job to splice all the information together. I'm Mr. Welch, and today we're looking at the actions and results of the Council of Intrusion. For starters, the Council of Intrusion is a group of 5 high-powered Immortals charged with keeping outsiders on the outside. The Council was introduced in Wrath of the Immortals, being hierarchs from all 5 of the spheres. Members rotate on a regular basis, though traditionally they are all neutral in alignment, which does make it hard for entropic Immortals, because as far as I can tell, that's just nix. When there's a breach into the Mystara world from one of the other planes, the Council investigates the intrusion and decides whether it's a threat. If it's isolated, they just watch it. If it's deemed to be a threat, they handle the threat harshly. Then the demons or the Githyanki or the angels are facing down 5 powerful Immortals and no small number of lesser Immortals backing them up. The reasoning behind the ban is because Immortals need mortals. The faith of the mortals keep the Immortals infused with power. The Immortals replenish their ranks from the ranks of the mortals, and if someone comes along to give the Immortals something else to worship, then the Immortals have a serious problem. But the Immortals have numbers on their side. There's dozens, if not hundreds of them. More importantly, the Immortals are all of one mind on this topic. Azantiotle might be pure undiluted evil, but if Lolth invades and kills or subverts his followers, then Azantiotle goes away. So it's a safe bet in case of a Drow invasion that tries to wipe out the Schattenalfen. The Patron of Corruption is going to be on the front line to shove Spider Chick back into her little slice of hell. The origins of the missing outsiders was because Mystara was on the lawful chaotic spectrum instead of being on the lawful chaotic and good evil spectrum. Demons were lawful evil, but Mystara had lawful being more of the good guys. It was a bit of an unnecessary restriction because it did shoehorn some of the classic monsters into the chaos equals bad and law equals good stereotypes. Throw in the fact that Beckme and AD&D had different sets of monsters, which changed when Mystara was kicked to 2nd edition. Suddenly you had a Mind Flayer mentioned in one of the 2nd edition adventures with no explanation of how it got there. This does give an opportunity to come up with a fluff reason why the outsiders are missing. The ban not only affects openly hostile creatures like demons or Illithid, but creatures that are known to be friendly to mortal like angels, no matter how perfect and angelic the angel is. The intentions of the creature aren't what is important. If they are there to help or hurt the mortals is not the point. The Immortals can't allow mortals to be slaughtered in mass or converted to the worship of powers outside of themselves. The bigger the threat, the bigger the intervention. A few Mind Flayers sneaking through the astral plane is probably just going to get some high-powered adventurers alerted to their presence and dealt with quickly and quietly. If Beckna bursts out of the demi-plane of dread and heads over to Derek instead of Sigil, then he's going to face down a small army of beings weaker in power but way more numerous. Immortals don't like to intervene personally, but if the Council calls in all hands on deck for an emergency, there aren't many that won't stop what they're doing to stop an extraplanar war from breaking out. A single creature isn't usually considered a threat, so a random tiefling sneaking out of Sigil for a little jaunt to watch the gladiatorial fights in Thyatis isn't going to get a second glance by the Immortals. He might get burned as a demon by the Phaeacians, but that's not on the Immortals. Single demons, or fiends as they were called back in Wrath because of the Satanic Panic, appear in a lot of the higher level modules, specifically the Master level. Celestials do make appearances, with the Archons being mentioned in the Monster Manual, and you've got visitors from nearby planes like the Brain Collectors and Diabli popping in from the Dimension of Nightmares, or the Glantrians and Alphatians being mortals coming across from parallel worlds and staying here. The group coming over has to be a solid threat to the Immortals, and to the mortals as well normally. Plus, refugees that flee to Mystara are going to need a new person to worship, and that helps the Immortals. Now, there are creatures that would normally not be allowed by the Immortals that can make cameos in Mystara, the ones that sneak in, and then there's the ones that ask nicely. There are Celestials that make appearances in Mystara, going back to the creature catalogs. You can hand-wave that the more lawful outsiders, like angels and devils, will ask for permission to visit the setting for very specific reasons. The Council tends to overlook individuals, like I said, so a single Mind Flayer might go undetected and just be preying on beggars and orphans trying to build up a base there. A Gith might make a deal to hunt down the Mind Flayer with permission from one of the Mystara's churches. Celestials might track down rogue wizards that went plane hopping and wrecked some other place and needs to be brought to justice. That would be a high-level adventure because a wizard that can just gate over to the Forgotten Realms to charcoal some uppity ranger with a scimitar fetish on a lark isn't going to be easy to take down. The restriction doesn't seem to apply to interplanar creatures. There's a lot of places where the veil is pretty thin within Mystara. Honor Island has a gate permanently open to the plane of fire to the point of they have tourists in the form of Helians and Afridi visiting regularly. There are portals to the spirit world in Ethengar. You can visit the court of Oberon by stepping into the wrong mushroom circle in Alfheim. A portal to the plane of water keeps the canals of Glantry City fresh. The elemental planes and the ethereal plane seem to be easy access for the players, to the point of there are elemental native creatures found somewhat commonly in certain nations, like there's Sulux in Yalarum, or the Kalmaru flying around the Isle of Spirits off the coast of Intrusion coming out of the plane of air. For this reason, you're going to find genocide rare but not unheard of, while tieflings are just legends found in ancient books. The fact that Mystara doesn't have interbreeding very easily, and a demon's curse put on random people isn't going to fly with the Council of Intrusion. So don't follow Forgotten Realms down the Moss Isley Cantina path and turn the game into just pointless menagerie of creatures that have no real reason to be there. There's a lot of adventure hooks when dealing with the Immortals expressing displeasure with various outer planar creatures that want in for various reasons. High-level characters that were going for immortality are going to be on speed dial when it comes to dealing with these invaders. Imagine getting dragged down to the canals of Glantry to lead an army of Magan against a recently arrived yet thoroughly entrenched nest of Illithid because Etienne d'Amberville wants to see how you handle it. You could play escort to an Iranese bounty hunter tracking down an escaped soul from the Nine Hells who thinks hiding in Mystara will save him. At the highest levels, you might need to mobilize your own private armies to crush two sizable groups on both sides of the Gith Civil War that decided to fight it out on Norworld. The Immortals don't favor one side or the other in that spat. You're expected to kill all of them. The Council of Intrusion was an interesting way to explain why the Fiends of AD&D weren't in Mystara. Originally, the reasons were purely mechanical because of the game design, but it accidentally gave us a lot of excuses for future adventures. It does make Mystara stand out for the lack of extraplanar events. In the known world, massive demon invasions are major incidents with world-spanning implication. Compare that to Forgotten Realms, where major demon invasions are just known as Thursday. Outer planar creatures are meant to be fantastic and rare, something that the party shouldn't expect, much less get comfortable with. Doesn't matter if the angel promises peace and love, they represent changing the way the very setting works, and they have to be sent back. Cue the moral conflict. So that wraps up this week's Welcome to Mystara. This topic was largely for 2nd edition and later. Beckme didn't have demons or sloths or Yugoloths, so you didn't have to worry about that. Later editions, however, Mystara used the same rules, and therefore if you wanted to keep it with the setting, you needed a reason why demons and gods don't just invade. Well, now you have one. Plus, it's an awesome image to have Ixion and Thanatos and all their underlings fighting it out when suddenly everybody's phone goes off and they have to help each other up and put the feud on hold while they go dogpile some uppity drow goddess so they can get back to beating on each other later. Next week is going to be up for a vote, so tell me what you want to hear about. I'm keeping most of the original votes up because this one got almost half the votes, but everybody else nearly tied for second. So until next time, remember, if anybody asks if you're a god, you say yes.